Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It is day 2 of Pony Week, a week in which I just use Pony products or talk about them or whatever. Honestly, every week is Pony Week, but you know what? After this week, I promise I'm going to be focusing on other brands, so I'm just trying to get this stuff out of the way. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about the... It was not highly requested. It was just something I've been needing to review. The Master Palettes. Here we've got the Matte Master Palette, and here we've got the Shimmer Master Palette, and they both retail for about 38,000 won, 34,000 depending on if you get it like on Mimi Box or something. On the Korean Mimi Box at least. I know the US Mimi Box like never has it, but it is available on Amazon as of making this video, so... First, I'm going to be reviewing the products and giving you my overall thoughts about the palettes, and then I'm going to show you the individual finger and brush swatches. Then I'm going to show you my kind of quick daily makeup that I get using the Matte Master Palette. That will be at the end, so if there's any part that you want to skip to, I'll put a timestamp here. But for now, we will go on to the review. Let's start off with the Matte Master Palette, which I'm sure people are most interested in. The Matte Master Palette, all completely matte shades. In terms of color, I think if we take out these two shades right here, as you can see, it's a very kind of Urban Decay Naked 3 kind of theme, kind of feeling to it. Very rosy, warm brown shades. But then you got your interesting, you got your green shade here, and then you got your purple shade here, which I think, can take the looks that you can get out of this palette to like another level, a little bit more smoky, a little bit deeper, take it from... What does Charlotte Tilbury say? She says, from desk to dawn to disco or something. Oh my god, anyway. You've got your kind of lighter shades here that you can use as a base. This one as well. Then you've got two shades here which are kind of in the more medium range. And then you've got your much deeper shades here that you can definitely use to define the eyes. And then, you can use these to add like interest, like a pop of color to the lids. Personally, I think this is more suited towards people of lighter to light medium, maybe medium complexions. If you're of a much deeper shade, you're probably going to get away with more of like maybe the middle section right here. I really like this palette because these are kind of colors that you guys already know that I like to use anyway. I don't go really crazy with my eyeshadow looks anyway, so I definitely find use out of this palette. For these two colors, I use them mostly as like liner color, to add definition to the upper lash line. Actually, this color right here, I think is almost exactly like the color that she has in her Mimi Box Shine Easy Glam palette. In her tutorials where she would use that, she always uses this to contour her nose, and this actually makes a really good contour color for my my own coloring. In terms of pigmentation, in the swatching part of the video, the swatches look alright, but for me, when it's on my lids, I honestly I don't know. On the lids, they look great. On arm swatches, the arm swatches were mostly just to show you the colors. But in terms of pigmentation on the actual eyelid, for me, I think they work fantastic. They're pretty pigmented, I think. Especially these two. These two colors are fucking poppin'. Obviously, all the colors are completely matte. There's no shimmer, no shine, no nothing. It's a really great palette for creating like shape and dimension to the eye. But because, you have like these more warm tones rather than just straight up just browns, it adds a little, it adds color to the eyes because it's not just your typical like brown colors, I guess. The quality of these shadows is much better than the actual eyeshadow quads that she first came out with, which got very bad reviews actually. And even for me, which I've mentioned before, that I think the pigmentation for me is fine because I don't wear eyeshadow full on all the time. So I don't mind a bit of sheerness to them, but in terms of this palette, it's a much stronger pigmentation. Its downfall, however, is the wear time. I noticed that I don't wear eye primer all the time. If anything, I'll put concealer on my lids and I'll set that with this color. But even then, over the course of the day, my eyelids are actually quite oily, so that might just be my fault. But the colors kind of become muddy and they start to, I don't know if you wear eyeshadow, you might know this, where they kind of like blend into each other and all turns muddy and like all one color, if that makes sense, especially if you like use different colors to create especially like in the outer corner parts of the eye, and you have like individual colors. But like for this palette, throughout the day it kind of wears off. It's not like the Etude House shadows which stay like the same all day. These ones kind of fade, so you definitely need an eye primer. But then again, my eyelids are oily, so that's just my problem. If you have more dry lids, you probably have an easier time with them. Eye primer is always a plus, but for me as a person with oily eyelids, the wear time of these is kind of average, if not below average. So that's its kind of main downfall. The packaging is really sturdy. It feels it's not too heavy, but it has some substance. What's the word? substantiability? Is that even a word? Like, it feels like, you know, it's definitely 38,001, if that makes sense. The mirror that you get is huge and it has like a magnet closure, so it's a really pretty palette and it's great for travel. And for me, I feel like I don't need that much product to get the pigment that I want on my eyelids, even with a brush. The brush swatches, like in the swatch video, the brush swatches kind of suck, but on my eyelids they look fine. So I don't know, you'll see it like in the demo. So do I recommend this palette? If you don't mind using an eye primer, I recommend it. I really like the colors. I think it's great for every day, you know, and if you want to get a little crazy, you got your two little colors over here. For me, I use it quite often for my daily makeup. But then again, even with my Etude House eyeshadows, which I depot and put them in their own palette, I use like the same kinds of colors. So I don't know, I guess because it's all already here in this palette, it's much smaller compared to like my huge Etude House one. I do reach for this, but you know, I mean, it's okay. If you are of a deeper complexion though, you might want to take a good look at these shades and consider whether or not you are willing to shell out the money for basically like the middle part, because I think these kinds of colors would look too ashy, to be honest. Yeah, that's my 2 cents on this. Next up is the Shimmer Master Palette. Now, this is a very interesting palette. This is not something you often see with, well, from what I've seen, because I don't leave my house, so I don't really explore makeup shop brands that much anymore, but I don't really see colors like this often unless it's like Etude House maybe. All completely shimmery. Some of these are kind of like a duochrome where they actually, in the pan, they look different from how they're actually swatched on the eye or the finger. I guess your more wearable shades would be like up here, and then maybe even this one, and then your more interesting shades, I guess, are like these 3 up here. You get the same amount of product, cost the same as the Matte Master palette, but of course these are all shimmery. What do I think of this palette? All the colors are very, very shimmery. However, this is the kind of palette I really think you would need to use your fingers with. In that sense, I feel like all these colors are more, rather than like creating a complete look with, I would not create an entire look with just these, even though that's what I did for my, what is it? If you're interested in seeing a look with this, then I did in my last video, my Moonlight Blue makeup. That will be here somewhere. The entire look was created with basically just these shadows. However, I think even if it's not with this palette, I wouldn't well, I mean, if you want, you can totally do whatever you want, but I always try to incorporate matte shadows with shimmer because an entirely shimmery look kind of looks a little bit dated, if that makes sense. But you know, if you do like to wear just shimmery shadows, then that's totally fine. But actually, like I mentioned in that video, I feel like these don't really make the surface of the lids look that attractive. They kind of make well, for me at least, because my eyes are so like, I have hooded lids and like I have a lot of skin on my eyes, so my eyes are quite double eyelid-ish. So they're quite wrinkly, I guess, because there's so many lines on my eyelid. They kind of make the surface of my eyelid look a little rough, which, you know, might not really be a thing for people. So that's just an issue I have. And the thing is, quite several of these colors struggle when it comes to using a brush. So if you're gonna be using your finger, I don't think you're gonna get many like precise looks by using, maybe you can, maybe your fingers are small enough or something, but for my big ass fingers, it's all gonna end up looking very like washed out and blended all together if I'm gonna be only using my fingers. Because if I use a brush, the pigmentation isn't exactly there with a lot of these colors. This is definitely one of those palettes where, let's say, oh, you want to go for a makeup look, but you want to try something interesting. Maybe you can put this or something all over the lid with just your finger, and then take a matte color and then put that in the crease, and then you're great. This is great for those sort of like not really one shadow, but you know what I mean, like the one interesting color kind of looks, if that makes sense. And then you can use these as kind of like in the inner corner, like in the brow bone or something to highlight. You can use this for like a little bit of definition. But generally, I don't think this is a palette that I would necessarily like if I'm traveling, like, oh, I gotta have this palette with me. Like, I don't think it's one of those palettes. Like, compared to this one especially, this is definitely more versatile in terms of look, but it all depends on what you want, to be honest, because I know there are definitely people that really enjoy just, you know, this kind of palette. This color right here does make it so it's not super shimmery. It's more of like a, what's the word? Is it satin? Satin is not the right word. It's like, it's not matte, but it has like a sheen to it. It's not super shimmery at all. It's not like you don't notice glitter or whatever. So you can add any of these colors to your lids and then use this as definition for your eye. So in that way, this color kind of saves the palette. But overall, would I recommend this? More if you have like a lot of, if you're like me and you have only colors like this in your collection, then getting something like this is, you know, quite interesting. It's a really, really pretty palette. All the colors are gorgeous. I love this color, even though it's like the worst performing shadow in this palette. This color is really, really pretty because in the palette it looks like this, but on the finger, it's like this kind of shade. You see that? Even this one, like, it looks like this in the palette. You see what I mean? Y'all see what I mean? Oh, this one looks like just like this. But yeah, the colors are really pretty. But I definitely would recommend using your fingers to apply this, like on the lid. Maybe using something like a MAC paint swirly pot, something really creamy and that will like really grab onto the color. Because I noticed that some of these colors really struggle when you start like layering these these shimmers on top of each other. Then they start to like get all muddy and like it's difficult to see one color compared to this because they start to really mix with each other. But yeah, that's what I think. Oh, and also the shadows are quite dry. I don't know if that's like a con, because as long as the shadow looks good on the eye, right? Like whether the actual shadow in the pan is dry or not shouldn't really matter. But I thought I would point that out there just because some people might be wondering. So yeah, really gorgeous palette. Gives a really pretty glow to the eyes. Lots of pretty colors. Just as long as you use it in the right way. But yeah. So there's my little review of the two palette. Little review. Which one would I go for if I had to choose between? Definitely this one. But like I said, if you have a lot of colors like this already and you want a little bit of pop and spice, nobody says pop and spice. If you want to add a little bit of flair, I guess, to your collection, this would be a really great palette. Because it's fucking gorgeous. Just the colors can be a little problematic if you don't use your fingers. Or if you have a brush in your collection that you find works just as well as like using your fingers, then use that. I don't have any brushes like that myself, so I would use my fingers. But yeah, this pastel palette is definitely an awesome palette, I think. Just wish the wear time was a little bit better. Now let's talk about pricing. Do I think that they're worth 40,000 won each? I don't know. Like if you take into consider, like I know I'm a Pony Factor, but I'm also an Etude House whore. Each Etude House individual shadow is about 3,500 won. Maybe up to 5,000 if it's like the super glittery shadows. If you consider 8 Etude House eyeshadows, just matte ones, that's about 28,000 won, which is like about $10 less than this one. But then we also add in a 8,000 won to 12,000 won palette of theirs, like the physical actual like thing to hold the shadows, then it would be about the same price. But if you just consider the shadows, which you can get individually, then that would be about $10 less. So if we're talking about quality, I definitely think the Etude House eyeshadows are more affordable. And because you can choose individual shadows, you can pick whatever colors you want for your palette or whatever. You know, personal palette. Also, a palette that they came out with, which I don't think is available on. If you can find it somewhere, hopefully you can find it. These personal eyeshadow girl. These are about 41,000 won each. So it's basically the same price as these Pony Effect palette ones, but you obviously get way more shadows, and these are fucking pigmented as hell. They're Etude House shadows, of course. So do I think this is worth the price? It's a little bit pricey. We're pushing it a little, especially because if you have to use like an eye primer for it to last long on an oily lid. I don't know. You take that into consideration, but that's just like my review of the palettes in general and what I think of the actual eyeshadows and things like that. If you're here for that aesthetic, then this is a gorgeous fucking palette. And if your mom is like, Ed, what do you want for your birthday? And that would be a good time to get it. But otherwise, it's pretty pricey. It's not cheap at all by any means. Anyway, that was my kind of review. Now to move on to the swatches. We're gonna get wild today, so we're gonna start with the Shimmer Master Palette. First shadow, yes. This kind of peachy. This actually reminds me a lot of what is that one thing? Color Pop, Champagne Pop from Jaclyn Hill. It's kind of like a beigey peach, champagne sort of highlight color. See that? I hope you can see that. Then we've got Sparkling. This one is kind of fuchsia. I almost said shimmering because they're literally all shimmers. Yeah, fuchsia. Kind of like a warm magenta fuchsia moment. Then we've got Odd. Right here. When you first look at it in the pan, you wouldn't think that it's going to come off this way, but that is the beauty of this palette. A lot of these colors are like kind of duochrome in a way. In the pan, it's going to look like it's like a kind of moss green sort of shade, but on the skin, it's more of like a red that has like a shift of like a browny green, if that makes sense. It very much suits its name, Odd. Then we've got Bombshell. Ooh, yes! That's your resident kind of coppery gold shade. Really pretty, really high shine. For the swatches, I'm going to be using this flat shader brush. I can't even tell you what brush this is because she decided to make the packaging to where you can literally just rub off the number, but this is the only brush that looks like this in the collection. It's okay. It's kind of one of those colors you probably would need to pack on, but I'm not surprised that the swatch looks like this, but it's alright. You definitely get more of the shimmer rather than the pigment. Oh, and to switch colors, I'm going to use my color switch from Sephora. Now for sparkling. Ooh, looking crusty. I packed this on more, but again, not surprised that the pigmentation isn't as strong with the brush, but it's alright, it's okay. This one, the more you build on with a brush, you definitely get more pigment rather than the actual shimmer and sparkle. Odd. Girl, what is that? When you build it up, it's more of like an orangey red sort of shade. Let's try packing it. Whenever I work with eyeshadow that's like this texture, I tend to like to use my fingers anyway, so I don't know, again, it's just alright. Then Bombshell. Still retains quite a bit of high shine even with a brush. I think out of all the brush swatches we've done so far, I think Bombshell and Sparkling have done the best. Alright, second row, starting with Mirror Mirror. Ooh, yes! This is kind of in the same vein as Yaz, but has more of that rose gold to it. That's what it is. It's very rose gold. Then we have Eccentric, which, by the way, in the pan, it's so fucking chunky. It is chunky as hell, which is sad because it's one of my favorite colors. Like, the color is fucking beautiful. But it's like a periwinkle. Is that what it is? Is that periwinkle? No, I don't know. It's like this kind of a lavendery periwinkle. It's like a purple blue shade. Very mesmeric. Then we've got Stoked, which I don't know who the hell came up with that name, but it's cute, it's cute. This is like a moss green, has a bit of yellow shimmer running through it. This one, by the way, has like a baby blue kind of shimmer. This one, again, rose gold shimmers in it. But this one's really, really fucking pretty. And then we've got the Resident Brown of the palette, Stunning, which is, by the way, very stunning. It's kind of like a pewter gray brown kind of shade. Flecks of kind of orangey green sorts of shimmer, but it's not really, really noticeable. It comes off more as like just like a sort of shimmery kind of shadow. You don't look at it and think like, oh, glitter. Even though it has a tiny bit of shimmer, you can definitely still use this for definition, even like in the crease or the outer V, which most people tend to reserve for matte shadows, but this is still workable. Really gorgeous finger swatches, so let's try the brush. Not very strong on this one here. The color's much lighter. You definitely need to build this up if you were to use a brush. This kind of brush at least, who knows, if you have maybe you have a better brush, but this one, that's how it appears with a brush. Then we have Eccentric. Now I know this one definitely doesn't work very well with a brush at all. Like, it's not even coming off at all. Do you see this? It's all kind of just flaking off. This one is terrible. I don't know if it's because if you have any powder products at home, if you're using a brush that has a bit of oil that was from your face and you dip back into the powder, it kind of creates like a crust over the top. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see it there? Did you see that? It's almost a little bit crusty, but even then, it shouldn't be performing this way, but you know what? That's what you get. I'll be completely honest with you. All these kind of like C- swatches, not surprising the amount of flakiness that's coming off is, I definitely attribute to the fact that they're all very shimmery colors. But this one's alright. This one's pretty good. I would probably advise maybe patting the color on rather than swiping like I'm doing here. But with this method, you get more of the pigment rather than sparkle and shimmer. But it's still a really pretty shimmery color. It's very shiny, very reflective. Oh fuck. Last but not least, Stunning. Oh! Girl, she looked like Folgers coffee. Looking like Folgers instant coffee. Super powdery, but you know, you get it almost comes off more like a matte brown when you use a brush. But it's not that bad, especially when you compare it to this shit over here. But yeah, that's what you get with Stunning with a brush. Almost more like a matte with like a glow to it. That's how I would describe this one as well. Alright, time to one of my favorite palette, of course, the Matte Master. Here we've got Blindfolded. Your regular run-off-the-mill kind of like bone sort of matte beige shade. Then we've got Uninvited. And a warm brown caramely shade, Spellbound. Almost in a similar vein as this, but definitely more on the red pink side. And then we've got Pleased. Oh, she's looking a little what's the word? I don't know, I can't explain, because when I swatch these on my fingers, they have like a very creamy texture to them, so it almost feels like they're drying like right on my fingers. That's why what is it? When I apply them, if I don't put them on immediately, then they're not, as you can see, it's still kind of see-through. It's not super 1000% pigmented. So because it feels like it almost sets on my fingers in a way. So it feels like I feel like you have to work with these quickly. Pleased over here is kind of the deeper version of Blindfolded. If you want to set maybe your eye primer, your base for your eyeshadow with a shadow, you might want to try this one because this might be too white for you or too bright. But yeah, this is kind of like a melony nude shade. I noticed this even with the Shimmer palette. You have to like, there's almost, I don't know how to describe it. You have to like pat it in. Because if you kind of just swipe once, which I'm sure most people aren't just going to swipe the color once and leave it unblended, I kind of have to rework some of these crustices back into the actual shadow. Because it almost has like a very creamy texture to it. It kind of balls up, if that makes sense. And you have to like reintegrate. That's a really stupid way to describe it, but I hope you understand. Then we got Uninvited. Yeah. Spellbound. Next time I probably need to swatch on my hand or something, because I noticed when I first used this on my eyes, it was really pigmented, but I guess the skin on my arm is like not the same, but that's what it looks like here. I'll try to give you a demonstration on my eyes. Really pretty mattes with a brush here on my arm, not that pigmented, but you know, they're pretty smooth. This one's a little patchy here with a brush, as well as this one. The color of my arm might factor into it, but this is more so to give you an idea of the colors. Alright, time for the bottom row. We've got here Whisper. Again, another kind of nude shade, but more on the pink side. Then we've got Undisclosed, bitch, this color though. Ooh, yes! How many palettes do you see with that kind of color? Well, in Korea at least, you don't see that many. Then we've got Hypnotized. See, it's doing that thing again where it's kind of like setting on my finger. Here, let me give you here. This one and the green one, Undisclosed, are very dry in texture. This one's a kind of is that turquoise? Is that the color? Turquoisey kind of green. Definitely more on the green side though, because it's like a mix of blue and green, but more green. Then here on Hypnotized, you're kind of purple, but it's leaning to like a brown, so you can definitely use it in like the crease or maybe near your lash line where I like to use it. And then we've got Mysterious, kind of tanned camel shade. Really love using this to define the eyes, and you can even use that as like a nose contour. That's what I use it for sometimes. Undisclosed and Hypnotized, by the way, do kind of stain my fingers whenever I happen to finger swatch them. Yeah. Undisclosed. I don't know what's going on today with these brushes, but for some reason it's probably just my arm. I don't want to sound like I'm trying to be biased towards Pony, but it's probably just the fact that I'm swatching on my arm. That one's alright. Hard to see because it almost matches my skin tone. I feel kind of bad that the swatches didn't do justice to it, because I feel like on a lid, even if it's primed or unprimed, it just looks much better. It's probably because my arm is so fucking hairy, and that's like somehow messing with the thing. But yeah, in terms of like colors, I think they're really pretty. They're very unique, especially this one. This would be really great if you're getting tired of like very basic colors, like me. This one is great because it gives you a bunch of neutrals that you can use for every day. But also, if you want to spice it up a little bit, then you've got these two shades here. Alright, now I'm going to show you my kind of quick daily makeup using the Matte Master palette. I don't always put eye primer because I'm fucking lazy, but on one eye I'm going to show you what it looks like with a primer, and the other eye, I'll show you how it just looks without an eye primer. Because I was saying, on the eyes, the pigmentation's pretty decent, but in terms of wearability, it'd probably be better to wear an eye primer. Oh, this is the Pony Effect Fixie Eye Primer. I don't know if she was trying to be like Pixie Woo, or she was trying to be cute and make it sound like Pixie, even though it's the word fix. I don't know. Going with this large brush, I'm gonna put this shade all over the lid to kind of even the tone of my eyelid and kind of make it easier to blend the rest of the shadows on top. And also on the side that's primed, it'll kind of set the primer, I guess. Then using this pencil brush, I'm gonna go into this shade, which is a kind of camel shade, and put that in the crease. I can't find my flat shader brush, so I'm just gonna use this brush, and I'm gonna apply a mix of these two shades. This is very, very similar to my daily fall makeup that I've done a while ago, so don't be surprised. I'm gonna put this all over the mobile lid. And then on a pencil brush, I'm gonna take a mix of these two colors. And on a smaller brush, just taking this one. Here.
I'd like to make a special dedication out to you for being just who you are and loving me.
I'm gonna take this purple shade and use it as a kind of liner. Not liner, but I wanna thicken up the lash line, if that makes sense. Right here. Alright, so there's my thoughts, opinions, and demonstration all on the Master Palettes from Pony Effect. I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you happen to be interested in these palettes, I'll link them down below for you. And so yes, I'll see you in my next video. Bye everyone!